those recommendations to be handed down at 1:30. Well, as we've seen in the last 24 hours, Senate estimates is often the best and worst of our democracy. Yesterday we had Michaeli Cash threatening to put unspecified rumours on the public record, followed up by a footballer's apology going along the lines of, if you're offended, I apologise. We now know that Michaeli Cash thought that Doug Cameron was implying innuendo about the conduct of her staff in the context of that new sex ban. Now, I'll let you decide if that justifies the threat made by Minister Cash. It's not a sackable offence. Yeah, she probably should apologise. But it doesn't have to be a public shaming ritual, but just a little bit of contrition so we can all move on, please. Well, less than 24 hours after that incident, Labor has perhaps demonstrated that it's no better when it comes to intemperate remarks in Senate estimates. This just an hour ago from Senator Kim Carr.
Well, I can tell you that too. But you'd know that, those in the Hitler Youth would understand that only too well.
That's outrageous, Senator Carr. That is seriously offensive. I ask that you withdraw that.
I was being facetious.
No, it's not facetious, Senator Carr. Accusing someone of being a Nazi is a very serious thing.
Cut it out.
No, seriously, Senator Carr.
Okay. Senator Carr.
If you took offence, I withdraw it.
No, Senator Carr, anyone would take offence.
You just threw a bucket of shit at me, and you're going to suddenly say, "Well, you're offended."
Senator
You're
Carr,
offended.
I was joking about revolutions.
You were joking. Well.
I was joking about revolutions.
Well, you were joking. Well,
I didn't call you a
Nazi. Very humorous, aren't you?
Senator Carr.
Thank you very much.
Senator Carr. Senator.
What's that? I've already indicated I withdrew it. He's taken offence. Let him. Poor petal.
Thank you for withdrawing that remark.
Ms. Harvey, I'm just making a point to you.
Poor petal for objecting to being compared to the Holocaust. I think you need to seriously reconsider your ethics.
Joining me now is Liberal Senator James Paterson. He joins us from our Canberra bureau. James, what's going on here? What did you say and what are you offended about?
Yeah, look, it's not a particularly edifying thing, Laura, not a very nice thing to watch being played back. It was actually a very uncontentious morning in the Education Committee. We were examining the Australian Research Council, not a particularly politically fraught area, and Senator Carr had about 30 minutes of uninterrupted questions, and as we often do in the Senate, I made what I thought was a humorous interjection, perhaps not a very witty interjection, after Senator Carr asked, when can we assess the impact of the French Revolution, and as the joke goes, it's too early to tell. And I said, well, what about the Russian Revolution? I genuinely didn't mean anything by it, but obviously Senator Carr objected, and he would have been well within his rights to ask me to withdraw, and I would have withdrawn unreservedly, but instead he chose to call me a Nazi. And yes, that is personally offensive, but more important than any personal offence I take, it's extremely demeaning to survivors of the Holocaust and to their descendants. It diminishes their experience, and the Holocaust and Nazism is something that really, there's just nothing comparable to it in history, certainly nothing comparable to it in Australian politics, and for all the political insults we throw at each other, surely that's one that we can leave aside.
Kim Carr did withdraw in the end. Was that good enough for you?
Oh, look, I mean, it's up to him whether he thinks his withdrawal was sufficient. As you played in your clip, Laura, after he withdrew, he said that I was being a poor petal for objecting to being called a Nazi. I don't think it's being a petal to object to being compared to the Nazi. I think anyone who's educated about history, anyone who's ever visited a Holocaust centre and seen the revolting horrors of that incident would not think it's being particularly precious to object to being compared to it.
So on their behalf, though, Senator, you'd be wanting a full withdrawal, not with the adage at the end, poor petal?
Oh, look, that's up to Senator Carr. I'm not here to tell him what he can and can't do or should and shouldn't do. He's got to reflect on his own conscience and decide what he wants to do.
Senator, after yesterday with the comments that Senator Michaeli Cash made in Senate estimates, what's going on in Parliament at the moment? Are you surprised that people are sick of the behaviour of politicians, of your colleagues?
It's hard to be surprised after the display that we put on, not just this week, but frankly over the last couple of months and some would say years. My profession is at a lower ebb, a lower level of respect than I think at any time in recent years, lower even than your profession, Laura. And I think we've got a collective task to try and improve it. I think it's actually a critical task because it's very dangerous for our national institutions to have their public confidence undermined like this.
Sledging is kind of part of the theatre of question time. It is part of the theatre of Parliament at times, even Senate estimates. Some things the microphones don't pick up when insults are thrown across the chamber. Do you believe that should remain part of the theatre of question time in Parliament altogether, or should that stop? Is this the first time that Senator Kim Carr has made a comment in relation to you? I believe there was another comment in the Senate chamber.
Yeah, there was another incident, Laura. He accused me of, during Senate question time, yelled across the chamber that I was goose-stepping, which is another Nazi reference, which he was forced to withdraw after Senator Linda Reynolds drew attention to it and asked him to withdraw. I'm not here to say that I'm perfect, and I'm not here to say that all my Liberal colleagues are perfect and all the terrible things are only happen on the Labor side. I think, as I said, it's a collective responsibility which we all bear, and I also don't think that we want politics to be completely boring and to have no interplay and no interchange. There's big issues at heart, and so it's going to be robust at times. But I think there's a line, and frankly, I think Nazism accusations are comfortably outside that line. So I would hope that we could all rise well above that very low threshold. Okay,
let me ask you about your colleague's comments, Michaelia Cash. What do you think she should do? Because I think there's a tone in politics at the moment that is wrong, that if any intemperate remarks are made, sometime you can go right to the top shelf and say, well, a minister needs to be sacked. I think that is ridiculous, but a bit of contrition on her part, do you think that would be fair?
Well, I think Senator Cash did the right thing in quite quickly withdrawing the remark that she made, and I think that was the right thing to do. The Employment Committee, which was yesterday, and which I'm also a member of, is a very robust committee, and there's a lot of exchange. And I know Senator Cash felt under a lot of pressure over her own staff because Doug Cameron was naming on the public record staff of hers who are not accused of any impropriety at all, and that is not convention in the Senate. And he was asked not to do that, and he continued to do that. That doesn't excuse or justify Senator Cash's response, and as I said, I think she did the right thing by withdrawing it.
But as we've just seen, Senator Kim Carr essentially apologised to you about an hour ago for making those Hitler Youth remarks, but then he went on to say poor petal, as in suggesting that you were being too sensitive. Michaelia Cash's apology yesterday was, I'm sorry if I've offended anyone. They're along the same lines, aren't they? They've always got a qualification in them.
Yeah, I think it's better, as a rule, to unreservedly withdraw and apologise when these things happen. But look, I'm not going to provide advice to Senator Cash about what she should do, just as I have not provided advice to Senator Carr about what he should do. It's a matter for each of them to decide how they would like to rectify this. Okay, Senator James Paterson, thanks so much for your time. Perhaps we can get you on another day and talk policy at some stage. Thanks so much. Yeah, some issues of substance would be great. Thanks. I'll speak to you again soon. Cheers.